Here's the content deputy. We'll take a look at that right now, okay?
Before Ethan even knew what my video was about, he was already framing me as anti-Semitic.
But he's like, no, actually, Ethan, the Jew bag, this Jew bag Zionist baby killer, guys, right?
I don't know if that's what the video is.
I'm one of you. I hate Jews too, guys. Let's get after it. Israelis have no right to defend themselves, actually. All Israelis are settlers, actually. What is he going to give me a history lesson now? Is he a historian? Yeah, he just discovered empathy, by the way, and only extends to the point where you're actually talking about Jewish people or Israelis. Then empathy stops and they should all be murdered. Bro's actually out there like Timothy McVeigh. He's running to the closest kindergarten to blow it up. There's a Jew. I heard there's a Jewish.
That's not what Timothy McVeigh did.
They want all you guys to quit and for me to just be like alone, little Jew boy alone.
This doesn't make sense if your position is that like Israel's committing a genocide. You know what I mean? Like I need a lot of you to reflect on what we are looking at from the perspective of Ethan claiming that he is a defender, a stalwart ally of Palestinians as he presented himself as yesterday, and one that recognizes that Israel is committing a genocide. Because if you are considering what Israel's doing is like an act of self-defense, then you can't also simultaneously say it's genocide. You believe one or the other. And I'm inclined to believe that the side that he's heavily leaned on is the side that is Israel has a right to defend itself. And that's precisely the reason why I think that he believes that there's a genocide was bullshit. Specifically because he doesn't have any real positions in this beyond focus on, I'm going to try to make sure you look hypocritical, which, I mean, it didn't really work. And it ended up making him look inconsistent. Yeah, he says it's a genocide to diffuse your points. Exactly, which is so crazy. Just grow up, bruh, sad. Are you telling me this or the 40-year-old man who's like using the backdrop of endless amounts of violence that he claims to acknowledge as a mechanism to drive home his petty agenda and claim that like his former podcast co-host and all of his former friends are being incredibly anti-Semitic because they're critical of his behavior in this time and not the Nazis that have found a comfortable home inside of the newfound H3H3 community.
What's very insane about this content cop is I was thinking about Ethan's feelings so much in that video. I thought about the idea of like how I shouldn't be saying the term Zionist or Zionism in that video because I was like, he has explained before that that's personally insulting to him and he doesn't like that. You know, regardless of how true it is, I was like, I'm going to think about Ethan's feelings and not mention this. Fast forward to him reacting to my video, he's just outright calling me a Nazi.
Is it a coincidence that Ian really shaved his head just before doing this video and he's holding a swastika one? I mean, we can free Palestine without being a Nazi. You Nazis, how about that? Well, this is the white savior, Ian.
This is the twofold problem here because like from the onlooker's perspective, when Ethan is like making these claims and like using them against me for some reason, there's a twofold issue. One, I think the claims are ridiculous. And two, I wasn't even there to begin with. So when I talk about the fact that like, I don't know what the decision-making process was there, I'm not saying that to like hide my fears, like hide my shame that I participated in this. And that's the way he tried to present it. That's the way he tried to present it as. And I was like, no, I don't think this is a real claim. I don't think this is valid. And also, I don't know why they made this decision in any, like, I don't know why they made this decision, but I also don't even think that this is like a real grievance that you are advancing.
Ian, who's just found empathy, unless you're Jewish, of course.
Ethan, people are allowed to shave their head and not be called anti-Semitic. I mean, if you're going to critique his podcast or be pissed off that he personally insulted you, even that is enough to be called anti-Semitic. It's crazy. Now, I don't want to talk about Hasan's sword. I don't want to talk about Hasan's sword hilt because Ethan himself basically admitted already multiple times he doesn't think any of us did that intentionally. And he would be right.
Do I think any of them actually like wanted to put a swastika in the photo? No,
Yeah,
no. I don't actually think that. The chances that they did on purpose is close to zero, right? So I'm not accusing them.
I picked up.
This is so consistent with the way that he has behaved for the past year, by the way. On the one hand, he says, I don't think it's serious. On the other hand, when he wants to use it as an argument, he's like, this is the most serious, most severe escalation of anti-Semitism against me. You are putting me in harm's way. All this And it's like, so why are you accusing people of this if you don't even believe it yourself? And that was also something that we arrived at in the conversation when he brought this forward as his like signature own in the beginning, where he was like, the content cop was lame, right? You were feeling lame about it, right? And I was like, I don't know. I participated in a sketch and I don't mind doing that. I mean, you've worn diapers on numerous occasions. Like, you're a comedian, you know?
How was filming that content? I just have to know what you felt, what you were thinking as they were doing the Fortnite L behind you.
We'll get that. We'll get that.
No. We're here. I don't want to talk about definitions. You got your Zionism, and let's do the.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it was fine.
Did you not?
I've participated in other YouTube videos as well in the past.
No, but that Fortnite L dancing.
Some of them feature sketches. Okay.
I noticed you weren't in the other shots. Why was that?
I think I was being interviewed by.
Oh, really? Who was interviewing you?
That was happening. I can't
really
remember.
Really? Oh, that's convenient. I think you were embarrassed, frankly. You were absent from every other shot. I think you saw him doing that Fortnite dance, and you said, "I got to get out of this."
No,
and by the way, I'm giving you credit for that.
I mean, Ethan, you're a comedian. You know, you've participated in some sketches. You know, it happens.
Not in that. I mean, shit.
Really?
Yeah.
You're one of your most famous sketches. You in a diaper. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. He also said he didn't actually think it was a swastika. Yeah, his position is untenable. Look, this is the other point that I'm making, which I think is important to address here. Ethan's allegiance with some of the worst reactionaries online simply because they hate me is so odd because it directly undermines his position of someone combating anti-Semitism. It would be like if I hyped up Bilzerian, Fresh and Fit, Sneeko, or Clandis because they hate H3 or Israel. I know that these are people who also are anti-Semitic. I do not want fans of these people in my community unless they are willing to learn, unless they're willing to entertain an alternative vision of society, one where they don't think that Jews are responsible for all the problems that they're foreseeing. Okay. I work actively to try and deprogram people from these communities to make them understand that their grievances are ridiculous and their hatred for Jews is pathological. He's a pathological liar, which makes it hard to argue with him because you need a clip for everything you say, or else it will be the lie, just like he did about the 115 IG stories. That's a lie. I know. What's really silly about it is that like his audience does actually watch all of his slop, so they should know better, right? Is there no moment where like someone a foot soldier goes, wait a minute, I've been following your Instagram. You probably did actually post 110 individual Instagram stories about Hasan. You know, you have been posting quite a bit about Hasan. I mean, it was funny because it was shocking even to him. That was what was hilarious about it. It was literally shocking to him that he had done that. That should be a wake-up call. That should be a moment where he understood the depths of his manic behavior. Like, think about that. He could not believe it. I think you're missing the point that he was trying to do. His entire purpose of the debate was to smear your image regardless of how far he was reaching. He tried to get the public to label you an anti-Semite. He didn't have a counter argument for anything you defended. Yeah, I don't think the public thinks I'm anti-Semitic. I don't think the neo-Nazis that are now celebrating Ethan think I'm anti-Semitic, because if they did, they would love me. Okay. So do with that information what you will, right? You can't just keep saying someone is anti-Semitic without like actual real points of contention. And especially considering how seriously I take anti-Semitism in general, and how much I talk about dog whistles, or even, as he made a joke about, microaggressions even. Like, I think he was just like saying it was anti-Semitic because people were just criticizing him, and I tried to drive home that point.
The main criticism that I was seeing online with my video from Ethan and Hila is that I didn't mention the CPS call.
There's really just one central point that I want to make here. My good friend Ian, in his hour-long takedown, did not mention one time Child Protective Services. Not one time.
There was not even one mention of CPS.
And a lot of the clips he uses is us fired up from.
Yeah, except it turns out the CPS stuff, he also admitted in our conversation yesterday, was not tied back to Snark at all by his own admission. It's just basically something that he packaged together without any evidence whatsoever. And a lot of people just keep going along with this. I don't understand. Even if it was Snark, I don't even understand how that would tie back to me. But let's say, like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, these are not my subreddits. His subreddit is directly controlled by him and his moderators. And his subreddit has done virtually everything that he says Snark is doing to him. Clip of that. You have evidence that H3 Snark called CPS on you?
Did I say that?
Like random anonymous
Did I
Redditors?
say that?
Who called CPS?
What the f? So I don't know. Did I claim they did?
Like, this is the title of their show. Snark called Child Protective Services on us. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, how can people look at this and go, he really presented himself as an honest broker here and he kept his composure throughout this process? It's like, okay, well, he just lied about everything. You know what I mean? And I actually did retort against his lies over and over again. I was like, yes, you did. You implied it. He literally said on the podcast the day the first talked about it, the CPS agent said it was someone who knows him in real life. I don't even know the details because I don't keep up with whatever the going on in Ethan's life. That would be ridiculous if I did that. That would be insane if I did that. There's so much news happening.
The day that CPS
yes.
came to us.
So, like,
without,
for a lot of
without
these-
even explaining that at least that's the context, it's pretty cowardly.
I wonder why I wouldn't mention the CPS call. Could it be that the CPS call happened the same day that you were talking me? And I didn't have any chance to defend myself. You just immediately, in the same podcast, right next to each other, said, CPS call was very traumatic. And then you said, Ian and Anissa. And you linked those together, you kind of layered those flavors, and then Anissa and I got a bunch of harassment. We had nothing to do with the CPS call. What are all these comments on your Reddit saying, like, it happened because of the CPS call?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, there's a lot of, you know how, like, there's the double Nakba situation that Ethan engaged in defense of the inception of the state of Israel, saying that Arab anti-Semitism caused Jews to become Zionist, a horrifying thing to say, especially when you're talking about the planned expulsion of Palestinians in comparison to other countries that are not related, right? Other Arab nations that you can only attribute to the same kind of sentiment if you are an anti-Arab racist. There's a lot of this going on here as well. There's like, oh, you did the CPS call actually. Like, it turns into, we don't know who called CPS, to actually Hasan and Idubbbz called CPS. In the minds of his audience, they literally go around being like, well, your audience called CPS. That's why he's actually frazzled. And it's crazy to just like attribute this kind of shit. Like, if Ethan, God forbid, got into a car accident tomorrow and came out and said, I got into a car crash because I hit I got into a car crash with a snarker without any evidence whatsoever, and then attributed that to me, everyone would say I did the car crash. What are we doing? Like, things are happening completely beyond my control that I don't even know about, that I'm oblivious to, that I'm not interested in covering even in any way, shape, or form. And he basically just will use any and everything that has happened in his life that I also think are unconscionable and totally inconsiderate from the parties that actually engaged in, that tried to cause harm to him directly, is somehow my fault. Do you have evidence that H3 Snark called CPS on you?
Did I say
like
that?
Random anonymous Redditors?
Did I say that?
Wait, what's the...
I said they're
who called
primary
CPS?
responsible for harassing me.
Who called CPS?
What the so I don't know.
To be honest, I'm very proud that I didn't immediately jump to Ethan and Neela's defense, because when you...
Is airing CPS call normal at all? No, that's the other side of this. I'm not going to criticize content creators for talking about the deep and personal harm that they withstand as a byproduct of being online content creators. I'm not going to criticize them, to each their own. But under normal circumstances, myself included, by the way, this is something that every content creator deliberately keeps to themselves because it creates copycats, okay? And by that, I don't mean CPS calls. I mean swatting, doxing, stalkers showing up to your house. Things of that nature happen in the background and are often not discussed. There's a reason why even LSF, which is a horrible, awful community online, brigaded to oblivion by literally... and completely controlled by a guy who is in Destiny's own community, even that instrument of mass harassment still doesn't post about swattings. And the reason for why they don't do that is because when you post about swattings or you talk about swattings, that creates an even more dangerous environment for all content creators, because it creates copycats, and there's basically nothing you can do about it in that circumstance. I mean, there are some things you can do about it, but if they want to talk about the people that are attacking them, that it's on them. If they choose that this is appropriate to talk about, then that's on them. But I'm telling you why most people, myself included, don't talk about this.
He was talking about his own health. He was talking about his caca breath, his dog having diarrhea, his dog having giardia.
Olive has giardia. It's a bacterial infection in the intestines that makes you have diarrhea.
His child running around putting things in their mouth.
Sonny's crawling around. He's putting everything in his mouth. He's at that age. He has Giardia.
The whole family possibly having Giardia.
Oh,
And now Hila has Giardia.
shut. For real?
And now I think this morning I had diarrhea.
Oh my god.
What can I do to not get it from
Yeah,
you?
I'm trying
Yeah,
to.
what?
Because I'm not trying to get
No, it's extremely ridiculous to get. You have to ingest my poop.
Talking about the viscosity of his child's.
And meanwhile, he is covered in viscous, low viscosity
Yeah.
diarrhea.
He mentioned diarrhea a lot.
Crazy diarrheas like in the middle of the night. All the time he's having these crazy diarrheas. You wash your hands as best you can, but these are really nasty diarrheas. And then extremely foul smelling diarrheas.
What is this show, man? What is like? What's the purpose of content for this? I'm having a hard time trying to comprehend what is happening on this show. Every time I see a new clip, I'm like, what? I guess I talk about silly as well. I don't know. I don't know what Ian's point is going to be here, but I will say regardless, like, I don't think that there is any validity to CPS calls to Ethan by virtue of how many professional people he has hired and how much wealth he has in terms of taking care of his children. There is no world in which, if there was a CPS call and they even found enough evidence to actually take his children away, that his children would actually have a better life under the guidance of the state rather than amongst his family. It's ridiculous. Okay. It is completely ridiculous. I don't want you guys to even entertain this notion. It's crazy. Foster care is a hellish nightmare, and the standard for a child being taken from their parents needs to be incredibly high, like predation, incest, something like that. Okay, it's crazy.
I don't trust you, and I'm glad I didn't trust you, because in your video defending yourself, you used a video that takes context from like 3 different places and combines them to make it seem like someone is coordinating an attack on you.
Love made a good point. You said, is this every comment? I believe this is a live feed of the chat. This isn't edited.
What about the top
This
right?
isn't the first time he's done this, by the way. When we literally were friends and had a podcast together, he was so invested in finding real anti-Semitism in my community at the time that he actually believed a doctored image that he straight ripped from Destiny's community. He himself had to ban long-term subs the other day because he was caught photoshopping this chat to be anti-Semitic. These people are deeply unserious and unwell, and the less attention you give, the better. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of people who are just like insane. That sounds psychotic, that there's someone in his community that unironically, this screenshot was tweeted out by their leader, then quickly deleted. The only problem, it's fake messages. Yes, Ethan Zionist, that's the level we're at, okay? Ethan literally thought this was real, by the way. Destiny photoshopped chats from my community talking about, saying a bunch of like actually anti-Semitic, not even slicing, completely photoshopped images, and he brought that forward to me directly the last time we had a conversation, not yesterday. Think about how insane that is. And then instead of going, hey, maybe I should second guess how quick I am on the draw, he basically said, oh, I'm sorry that I got duped by this, but also it doesn't matter because your chat is saying stuff about me being a Zionist or my wife participating in IDF raids or whatever. The irony, of course, is that very same community that has been actively, unironically, grooming a 40-year-old man used to call him the R word all the time. I don't even think they still like him, really. They just like that he's a weapon that they can wield. They do. They don't. There's a ton of logs. There's a ton of YouTube videos of back when we had a podcast together before October 7th, where they're just like, Ethan is the dumbest person on the planet, like on him actively. That's another thing that I will never understand about how excited he is to be a useful idiot for these guys. Like even Nicholas Eat Oreo, that dude called Hila a horse for years. Okay, he called Hila a horse face for years. Keemstar, these are like super right-wing communities, okay? I don't understand how you just go, all right, well, now you're attacking the person that I want to undermine and you're giving me support, so it's okay. Yeah, Keemstar can defend Ethan all he wants. I'll always remember when this man was harassing Hila Klein, calling her a horse, and now Ethan wants to accept his support. Yeah, ridiculous. That's the other side of it. Like I'm infinitely more understanding of even people's past service, right? I live in America. It would be antithetical to everything I believe in terms of people's capacity to change. Something that I believe is people's capacity to change no matter what they've done. Here is the Diddy G chat. Ethan Klein is such an R word. Destiny, is there anyone with a platform the size of Ethan that is consistently as big as an R word as he? Ethan is a R word and his entire team too, lol. Ethan is such a R word. Ethan is a R word. Omega lol. No Ethan Klein next to him. Azan instantly looks like an R word again. Omega lol. Ethan R word decline. Lol W. Don't you do the same for Bad Empanada? I don't get the double standard. Okay, here's a great example of this. Bad Empanada and I align on a lot of issues in terms of the way we see the world, okay? We do not agree on tactics. We do not agree on methods. But overall, Bad Empanada is not my ideological enemy. I do not care. These guys are Ethan's ideological enemy if he ostensibly cares about anti-Semitism. That's my point. If he cares only about people engaging in bad faith smears against him, then these people have done a ton more than I ever have. My issue with Ethan was a disagreement with how he carries himself in a conversation revolving around a genocide that he also seemingly admits is happening. Do you not understand that? And if he also cares about anti-Semitism, as he clearly does not, but he claims that he cares about anti-Semitism, then he would be shocked that all of these people that his community is hyping up as defenders of him that have been anti-Semitic over and over and over again. Bad Empanada is a maniac. Bad Empanada is not an anti-Semite. Bad Empanada is a maniac that actually does incredible work when it comes to well-sourced YouTube essays. This has been my consistent position on Bad Empanada over and over and over and over again. What I don't get is how you'll say Empanada is nuts and then weaponize mania towards Ethan. No. As a matter of fact, I don't do that. You want to know why I don't do that? When Ethan goes, well, Bad Empanada called AB a house slave. What do you say to that? I'm like, I don't agree with that. I don't endorse that at all. Do you not understand? If I actually agreed with it, or if I actually agreed with his methods, I'd be like, well, yeah, his constant hammering on of the CPS call is actually perfectly valid or whatever. You know what I mean? I wish that he wouldn't do any of that. I wish that he would focus less on drama in general. I wish, because whenever he tries to like cover that subject matter, he gets completely out of control. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, Hasan endorses his research on the Jewish diaspora leaving the MENA region, not calling Hila the raider of Ramallah or playing the game where he like, I even understand what argument he's trying to make, right? When he plays the Al-Aqsa Martyrs video game, right? On Steam. When he's doing that, he's trying to showcase the double standard of people being called a terrorist and smeared viciously, as opposed to people who have actually taken up arms and engaged in acts of terrorism. Everybody has played Call of Duty. There is no issue with killing as many Muslims as possible. But when the roles are reversed, everybody loses their shit. Would I do that? Absolutely not. Okay? Never in a million years would I do that. I think it's a insane thing to do. It's an insane thing to do. The point I always make on this, by the way, is simple. If I were to come out with an insane statement and say, like, we must nuke Tel Aviv, then I would get banned off every platform and probably actually get sent to prison. But if I say, let's nuke Tehran or let's nuke the Gaza Strip, I would get elevated into the State Department to a higher position of power. Okay? This is the heart of that double standard. This is why I always say, while anti-Semitism and Islamophobia are both unacceptable forms of bigotry, anti-Semitism has institutional power. You can't engage in anti-Semitism, actual anti-Semitism, not like, or even you can't even engage in what people perceive as anti-Semitism, unless it's something as ridiculous as what Ethan is claiming, obviously, like the bleach sword, okay? But like even criticisms of Israel are packaged under anti-Semitism deliberately by the State Department to get people black-bagged, okay? But when you say Islamophobic, when you engage in Islamophobia, when you engage in anti-Arab bigotry, it's perfectly fine. Nobody ever bats an eye at that. Destiny, Ethan is an R-word who thinks being friends with people is being their attack dog. Even Hasan thinks Ethan is an R-word. Think about that for 10 seconds. Omega lol.
You literally look like a free tattoo pack that you get for 25 cents from a windy thing, bro. Like literally my kids have cooler tattoos from Chuck E. Cheese. Bro looks like he just went to the menu and was like, I'll take that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, and that one.
I have quite a few options here. I can show your tattoos in all of their glory, or I can show that your tattoo made it to the top of awful taste but great execution subreddit, which is not a good thing. I mean, it might be a good thing for the artists that you work with because that means that they did a good job from a technical standpoint, but it's sort of a failure in every other aspect, particularly the decision-making aspect. If you want to go tattoo for tattoo, Ethan, we can do that. You want to keep it to other things, we can.
I didn't miss him showing the Hilo tattoo. I just don't care. Like, I think this is Idubbbz returning to form in some fashion, where he's like, if you want to go band for band, like, I'll be vicious. This isn't even a criticism of Idubbbz. I personally don't give a shit about whatever tattoo Ethan gets or engage in any sort of psychoanalysis over what that spells for his marriage, which is, of course, something that I saw his own fan base make jokes about. Like, not Idubbbz's. I'm saying Ethan's own fan base was making jokes about that. You have not mentioned Ethan's kids once, the crew, or his family in any shape or form. To this day, you're still charitable and focused on the politics. Ethan, on the other hand, has brought up your mom, dad, friends, your dog, even your quote-unquote housekeeper, sex life. I know, everything. Literally everything. Like, Ethan has also personally brought forward his family members, including his dad and his mom. Like, he's made them a primary fixture of his content. They've done a lot of weird. I never touched on that. I don't care to touch on it. You know what I mean? I think that's irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. But because he's doing a faucet of misinfo and trying to smear to the best of his goddamn ability, not obsessed, by the way, of course. Like, he said my glasses are fake. Like, it's silly. It's frivolous.
Anything.
It came up because they were talking about it on their podcast. By the way, they're the ones that like started this conversation by talking about it on the podcast. Be like, hey, I'm not getting involved.
I think that was their response after you guys initially called them out.
He can't even keep straight who attacked who first. He thinks that our podcast, where we're expressing sympathy for him and Eli.
Yeah, I mean, he was so obsessed with like winning the argument in clips in his mind that he went so far as to call his own wife a terrorist. Is Ramallah a part of Israeli territory?
I mean, it's complicated, right? It's under occupation. No, I don't think so, but it's under occupation, right?
Okay, so why was your wife in Ramallah?
Maybe are getting a terrorist that killed civilians. She sat in a car.
It's not complicated, Ethan.
She sat in a car and didn't even leave it and never did it again.
Your wife participated in an illegal raid according to international human rights. That is the reality. Now, I understand.
Are you upset if this person killed like a child? Would you be upset if this person they arrested like stabbed people? Like, you don't know what you're talking about.
If she were to talk about how
fine, my wife's a terrorist, bro. What the f? It's so boring.
Stop. Yes, this is correct. That boy deadly. You are correct in that assessment. He literally immediately was like, hey, you know, it's a genocide. Let's move on from that. And then whenever I was like, okay, if you believe it's a genocide, then like, what do you think is more urgent? What do you think is more significant? What do you think is more severe? Yeah, like this. Tank this, foot soldiers. What the f? Like, brigading my goddamn wiki feet, bro. That is nutty.
There's this moment in the Content Cop where I'm trying to give an example of the cycle of harassment. Have you ever been in a comment section and found someone to argue with? It doesn't stop. It can literally go on forever if you don't want to touch grass.
New dog whistle just dropped. Your use of the number 110 to describe the amount of IG stories they're saying is another dog whistle. I feel like Ethan's community might actually have content-induced mass hysteria. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make any sense at all, bro. That does not make any sense. Like, what would it even imply? What would 110 of his own Instagram stories, what would that imply? What is anti-Semitic? It's definitely related to the 101. Oh my God. 109 is the anti-Semitic dog whistle. The Nazis will say Jews have been cast out of 109 countries. It must not be a coincidence, implying that like Jews are responsible for their own pogroms because it was justifiable to do pogroms to them. Holy no, not 110 Arab countries. No. Oh my lordy. This is also extreme level dog whistles that most of you are probably oblivious to. Wouldn't that mean that he was the one being crypto Nazi since he made the 110 posts? Yeah, what the f? Hey, yo. Regarding Hasan, fans spamming 110 on this subreddit is a vague reference to the amount towards the times. Ethan has posted an Instagram story mentioning Hasan. Help me fight a hallucination. You post this number even on threads where it's completely irrelevant. This number just also happens to be a known neo-Nazi dog whistle. So please prove to me that Ethan mentioned Hasan exactly this many times. Prove to me that you didn't stretch out the amount of times Ethan mentioned Hasan to land exactly on this number. Tell me why your reasoning. What the f? It wasn't even the entirety of the times that he's mentioned me. That was the initial tabulation without even factoring in clips, dude. It's like every single time they come up with some new it's like I have to entertain their goddamn hallucinations. Like, that is psychotic.
Ethan and Hila act like they have no idea what I'm talking about here. So, I mean, maybe they don't. It's a very obvious and easy to digest point. That's why I made it that way. I'm going to explain it here so everyone on the internet understands. When you have a podcast where you are constantly emotionally dumping and saying things just off the top of your head, and you're attacking other people randomly, maybe from your perspective it's not attacking. Maybe you're just commenting on someone else's situation.
He's got to be one of the most visually repulsive people. FaZe Banks, like, in my opinion, he's somewhat repulsive to look at.
And being
Pedophile.
That's crazy. Whoa, what the saying that about Brother Banks is unacceptable. Bridge too far.
Pirate Software was like weird about it. It's like, look at my old voice, it's so lame. What an obnoxious loser. She goes, I can't believe these people are so obnoxious. And he looks like an idiot who's obsessed with me, dude.
But what happens when other people comment on your situation? It doesn't feel too good, does it?
But he's like, no, actually, Ethan, the Jew bag, this Jew bag Zionist baby killer, guys, right?
I don't know if that's what.
Yeah, did anyone say that? Who said that? Did Idubbbz say that? Why is that your Insta lock? Like, what the The only person saying that is Ethan himself.
That is the back and forth I'm describing. You might have thought we were just saying that Ian and Anissa are bad friends. Well, guess what? We didn't take it that way.
Our POV is like, fuck everybody, and I don't want to hear any excuses. You're not my friend, and you never were, and you never will be. You never will be.
What we took it as is Ethan and Neil are talking us. They just implied that we are okay with people using CPS as harassment, and now all of their fans are brigading us. So I am going to respond in kind and make a content cop.
Unironically, the most anti-Semitic person involved in all this so far has been Ethan himself. I disagree. I think the most anti-Semitic people involved in this are definitely a lot of the neo-Nazis that love that they can use Ethan like a fleshlight, okay? There's definitely more anti-Semitic people. I get what the point you're trying to make, however. The point you're trying to make is that Ethan is dangerous conflation of anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, or like his mechanism of using anti-Semitism as a way to attack any kind of, as a way to shield himself from any sort of like valid criticism in terms of his coverage around this thing that he considers to be a genocide as well. That is definitely dangerous, as Sam Cedar also correctly pointed out. Sam Cedar absolutely pointed to this. He was honed in on it, as a matter of fact, when he was trying to get a gotcha out of him.
You're not the biggest victim on the internet, Ethan. Other people can experience a horrible time. And guess what? They're not getting this other benefit, which is 26,000 viewers. You're getting a lot of money and a lot of content, a lot of things that you care about from these beefs and from this harassment. There are a lot of people that you've just bullied and they have nothing to gain out of it. Frogan isn't making a bag from this. She's not getting content out of this.
Yeah.
You're attacking her in relentless ways and endorsing so much worse harassment than what even you send her way.
Yeah.
The shitty
Which his own crew actually recognized, which he complained about when they recognized that.
He said and posted about Frogan over the past
nasty,
years is
very
like
mean.
insanely nasty.
Yeah.
Worse than anyone I've seen. If this is true, absolutely mind-blowing, insane.
Hold on. It's not worse than anything you've seen. How could it be worse
Apparently.
than anything you've seen?
Literally, no. I guess
He was
not.
very nasty.
He
Well, I'm just saying, people get lay down and like.
I'm talking about
and
specifically
castrate-
against Frogan.
But like he called her fat, right, and ugly, which.
Like, there are wake-up calls after wake-up calls after wake-up calls for members of his community that see him engage in everything from the most self-centered, most narcissistic, childish way possible. What about me? I am actually the biggest victim of all time. Me. Like, I've made it a point to always mention that regardless of the financial hit or regardless of the endless amounts of harassment and maybe even legal, like criminal repercussions that might come my way, that my commentary on this issue is important to me, and I don't care about the penalties because it's inconsequential in comparison to all of the real victims that are experiencing a genocide. Okay. It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. So even when people, or even when I personally bring up like, oh, after October 7, like a third of my community left, that was a major exodus. That made me feel horrible because it made me feel as though people were just completely oblivious to what was actually unfolding.
And in closing, I will reiterate so that, there's no ambiguity about it. Anissa and I are no longer involved in Creator Clash. We're stepping down completely. We hope that the event is a massive success this year. We hope that all of the fighters get what they wanted out of it. I'm sorry that I'm such a nasty person who just wants to roll around in the I'll put the link to Creator Clash down in the description if you want to support them in their mission to get creators to fight and raise money for charity. You can do that down there. I will be doing that on my own, and I hope you guys have a good time.
Surely the good guy in this situation up a charity event, right? Yeah, of course. For purely personal reasons too.